They were soldiers with no bullets, no real tanks, and no intention of fighting. Yet they fooled Hitler's army again and again. This was the Ghost Army, a top-secret U.S. military unit during World War II, made up of artists, sound engineers, and designers. Their mission? To make the enemy believe there were thousands of troops, when in reality, there was almost nothing. Using inflatable tanks, fake radio chatter, sound effects, and stage illusions, they staged massive fake invasions that changed the course of the war. But for decades, their existence was hidden. Not even their families knew the truth. Their weapons were not guns, but illusions. The Ghost Army became masters of deception. They created entire fake divisions, thousands of inflatable tanks, fake trucks made of rubber, even cardboard planes parked on empty runways. From the sky, it looked real. From enemy spies, it sounded real. And from the radios, it all seemed coordinated. They blasted recordings of troops marching, tanks moving, and gunfire echoing through the forests, all played through powerful speakers, mounted on jeeps. These men were trained artists, actors, sound engineers, and set designers, recruited from art schools, Broadway, and advertising agencies. Their biggest test came before D-Day in 1944, as Allied forces secretly gathered to storm the beaches of Normandy. The Ghost Army staged a fake invasion site hundreds of kilometers away. They set up dummy camps, lit fake campfires at night, and even sent false messages in German radio frequencies. Nazi scouts saw what they were meant to see, a full-blown army preparing to attack from the wrong place. Hitler moved his forces. The real invasion at Normandy was met with less resistance. And because of that, thousands of Allied soldiers survived. Not because of bullets, but because of a performance. A war won with creativity. The Ghost Army didn't just trick the enemy, they terrified them. German troops often reported seeing large military movements that didn't exist, hearing tanks approach that never arrived, and even intercepting fake messages that led them into empty traps. In one mission, a team of just 1,000 Ghost Army men pretended to be a force of 30. They used lights to mimic campfires, moved inflatable tanks by night, and changed their insignias and uniforms daily to appear as different divisions. Even locals believed they were real. Their operations had to be perfect. One mistake, and they would be exposed, surrounded by enemy forces without real weapons. They were risking their lives with nothing but lies. Yet they succeeded again and again, because their secret weapon wasn't guns or grenades. It was creativity, fear, and confusion. For decades, no one knew what they did. The missions were classified. The soldiers couldn't tell their families. They came home from the war, quietly blending back into society. Some became artists. Some returned to teaching. Some carried the weight of the secrets they had kept for years. It wasn't until the 1990s that the truth began to surface. Historians and journalists uncovered files, testimonies, and artifacts that revealed the Ghost Army's incredible story. In 2013, a documentary brought their missions to light. In 2022, the U.S. government finally awarded them the Congressional Gold Medal. But for the men who served, the greatest reward wasn't a medal. It was knowing they had saved lives, not with violence, but with brilliance. They had rewritten the rules of war, and no one saw it coming. The Ghost Army didn't just save lives, they changed military strategy forever. Their tactics of psychological warfare, misinformation, and sound deception became the blueprint for modern warfare. Today, militaries around the world use similar techniques, from decoy vehicles and cyber deception to fake radio chatter and visual illusions. The Ghost Army proved that war is not only fought with bullets, but with brains. Intelligence, creativity, and bold thinking can shift the outcome of battles without firing a single shot. In classrooms, military academies now study their missions. In museums, their tools of illusion, inflatable tanks, scripts, audio reels are preserved as proof that artists and engineers once fought a war without ever being seen. And perhaps the most haunting truth of all, their silence was louder than gunfire. Among the men of the Ghost Army were painters, sculptors, and stage designers, ordinary artists turned silent warriors. One of them was fashion designer Bill Blass, who later became world famous. But during the war, he painted fake tanks and camp signs in the mud. Another was Ellsworth Kelly, a modern artist who used color and shadow to design illusions for battlefields. These were not men trained to kill. They were trained to create. Yet they entered war zones with no real weapons, surrounded by enemies fully aware that if they were caught, they would be executed as spies. Still, they stayed. One mission required them to pretend to be an entire division just a few kilometers from German forces. They set up tents, parked rubber vehicles, and broadcast fake troop orders over the airwaves. At night, they moved positions quietly, dragging inflatable tanks in the dark. It was art under fire, and the price of failure was death. War often remembers the heroes with guns, the generals with medals, and the battles soaked in blood. But the Ghost Army? They fought with silence. With fabric, paint, rubber, and sound. They were never meant to be seen, only believed. Their names were forgotten. Their missions erased. But their impact changed the world, because they proved something rare, that the human mind, when used with courage and creativity, can be the most powerful weapon of all. They won battles not by taking lives, but by saving them. No monuments were built for them. No parades welcomed them home. But history now remembers. The Ghost Army lives on, not in the shadows, but in the light of the truth they once had to hide.